Alright, what's up? I am back. Definitely took a lot longer than I said initially, for which I'm very sorry, but I did say no promises because I figured something like this might happen anyway. But that aside, this is the defense video. I would go and say that defense is the hardest aspect of the game, mainly because once you actually get blocking, you don't have too many options. The risk-reward scenarios are actually very skewed when you're actually blocking something in this game. So much so that at the end of the day, a strong neutral game is usually the best defense, but you don't want to just roll over and die once you get put into block stun either, right? So this video will hopefully shed some light on some general ways to try to keep yourself alive once you actually do have to block somebody. So the golden rule for defense in BBTAG is threat assessment. If you take nothing else away from this video, I want you to drill this concept into your head. It is threat assessment. If you have good defense in BBTAG, you have good threat assessment skills. So what that means is you can look at the characters. This is where knowing the characters comes into play. Knowing your matchups and things like that. What can this character actually do to you, right? Like I covered in the offense video, all system offense is actually meant to be reacted to. System offense as a whole, like what they give you as for every character, like this right here, 5C, that's the universal overhead, and throws, those are meant to be reacted to. Those are definitely reactable and not things that you need to be scared of so much. Sometimes they can hit, right? But as a whole, you want to have your defense, your basic defense, strong enough so you're not scared of those options, right? So right there is that's not that threatening. 5C throw, not so threatening. Characters like Mitsudu, for example, that's terrifying. That is actually terrifying. You cannot react to that. It is so fast and so threatening that if this character gets on you, the situation becomes a lot more dire than if Hyde has you blocking, right? Because what does Hyde do to actually open you up? Setting aside his chip, like not even thinking about like why it's bad to sit there and just block Hyde all day, just like going off of his options to open you up. Like what does he have to actually open you up when you're blocking here and you're like when you're actually adamant about blocking, right? Like, okay, I'm just willing to sit here, I'm not scared of you, right? He has a fuzzy that he can do, right? He has to get a little tricky. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I did it. Yo. Okay. So he has a fuzzy, right? But that's something that he has to set up. He has to jump in at you. He has to reset pressure with a jump in. Like, he has to do something like this, maybe. Or he can do it on Oki, but at that point, he already hit you once. Maybe carried you to the corner, whatever the reason may be. But still, like, if you're actually blocking Hyde, he's not going to have an easy time opening you up. So that is pretty much the basis of threat assessment. It's like, can you assess how dangerous this situation is? Because in this game, you have a couple resources to actually navigate defense a little bit, mainly push block. Push block is your main tool for defending in this game, but it costs a bar. Like I mentioned in the offense video, it costs a bar. So because it costs a bar, it is a resource. It is a valuable resource at that. You can only push block to a maximum of 5 times. So if you have a full gauge, right, and you push block 5 times, sure, you push block 5 times, but you're not gonna have push block when you need it if you're just push blocking immediately. If you're using your meter to escape situations that aren't so scary, when you get into a situation that is terrifying, you're not gonna have the meter to actually push block. So it is very important to gauge whether or not it's worth spending the gauge. As weird as that sounds. So one of the most common situations that come up in this game on defense is the sandwich, right? You do this, you get behind somebody, and a lot of times they cross combo too, because then they get a bunch of mix-ups off of that situation. But you don't have to be a BBTAG wizard to understand that that's a very bad spot for you to be in, right? You don't want to be blocking all of those mix-ups in the sandwich. It's particularly bad because sandwich pressure is set up in a way where it is very safe to push block. Like, they are going to eat up all of your resources. That is what their goal is. How do I make them block? Okay, that whiffed, but... You see that? That was mad simple, right? I'm just doing 5B and calling assist. What is that? I can't go anywhere, right? That's very, very, very bad for you. The opponent is in complete control. At any point during that block string that they're doing, they can just do left, right, and you get hit. And a lot of times, better players, stronger players, like more experienced players, whatever you want to call them, will always try to make sure the confirm to get after that is safe to burst. as well. So you really do not want to get hit in a sandwich, because if you didn't know this, if you get hit while you're in a sandwich like this, oh wait, I don't know what I was going for. Well, during a cross combo sandwich like this, you're not getting any, you see Narukami's health? Like, you're not getting any red health from that. It is very bad. You could lose the game off of a bad cross combo scenario like that. So surviving that sandwich is really, really important to do. And honestly, the best way to do that is to never find yourself in that situation. But if you do, on the off chance that you do get caught, right, and they put you into that scenario, the most important thing that you can do is separate the point and assist using push block. You want to separate those two characters. But how do you go about doing that when, if you push block, you go nowhere, right? It depends on the composition, it depends on assist, but a lot of the times you can push block and try to jump out, right? Like that, right? If Narukami just sits there, then he has to block all of that. Of course, this is a pre-recorded thing, like normally players will adapt on the fly to how you're defending and respond accordingly, but typically when you push block, you can wiggle your way out, because when you push block in this game, it puts you into a fixed amount of block stun every time. And sometimes that fixed amount of block stun is shorter than the block stun that you would be in if you just guarded the move normally, right? So you can essentially cut the time that you're in block stun down by doing push block and then jumping out. I forget the value off the top of my head. It used to, I could be wrong, but I think before it used to be like 10 frames or something like that. 10 frames force block stun. Or maybe I'm just taking a number out of thin air. I cannot remember. But anyway, normally it's shorter than the amount of time that you would spend normally. So something important to keep in mind when trying to do this is that there's a cooldown on push block, right? So once you push block once, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but there's a amount of time where you can't push block again. So right here, I pushed block hide, and then I tried to push block the Mitsudo assist immediately, and nothing came out, right? So you do have to wait a little bit, which is why you have to make your push blocks count. You have to know why you're push blocking, pretty much. So a rule of thumb when defending against cross combo offense, or just offense in general in this game, is that you can actually delay your push block and try to throw off their timing, right? That is what you're aiming for. So in a string like this string is actually very tight, right? All things considered, like I can't back out of this. Like, I just get hit. Right, so if I throw push block into the mix, I push block immediately, try to jump, I still get hit. So I'm gonna push block twice, and now I'm out. So that is the concept for that. The nice thing about fighting games is that your opponent is going to be human. They're not going to be computers, so they're not going to confirm everything all the time, or they're not always going to make the decision quickly enough, or make the right decision quickly enough. So your goal when defending against sandwich mix-ups like this, or even like cross combo offense in a corner, Alright, if they're doing this, is to throw off their timing so they can't mix you up properly. Right, when you push block, you want to focus on the point, because the assist cannot mix you up, the assist can't hit you high or low, so you don't have to worry about the assist so much, in most scenarios anyway. But you want to make sure the point is pushed out, so they have to run back in to do more mix-ups to you. And that is essentially how you get yourself out of those situations. Of course, it's not always going to work out so smoothly, but that is the layer 1 of that scenario. It's relatively safe to try to push block and fuzzy jump out of a lot of scenarios. Of course, keeping all of that in mind, sometimes push block is not enough. Sometimes their offense is just so like tight and so concise that you can't do anything with just push blocking. Right, you push block and you try to fuzzy jump and they just hit you low, and now you're dying. Right, now I have to burst, and you know they bait it, blah blah blah. Situation's very bad. So sometimes it is not the best case scenario for you to actually try to push block somebody. So in those cases, you have to make a decision. Like, it sucks, defense is hard in this game, but sometimes you have to mash DP. As bad as that sounds, sometimes you have to mash DP, sometimes you have to mash super. You have to make a decision, and you have to do it quickly. If you wait too long, you're gonna get cracked open. Like, you cannot block forever in this game. The mix-up is too ridiculous. So, of course I said just mash DP, but I don't mean do it mindlessly. Of course, you have to make a decision, but you also want to think about its probability of actually working, because risk reward in this game is very skewed. Like, if you block someone's DP, and then hit them, there's a red X over your burst, you cannot burst. That is a lot of damage that you stand to take. You don't want to be just throwing it out arbitrarily, but at the same time, you don't want to just sit there and block either. So the hard decision has to be made. Depending on the scenario, it's a little better for you. Like Carmine's DP hits on both sides, so it's pretty good against sandwich mix-ups in particular. But of course, if you're wrong, you just die. You have to keep the risk reward in mind when you're making decisions like that. So super is the safer option. If you have to make a defensive decision, right, because you have to get out of this scenario because it's too dangerous to just sit there and block and you don't have any other options. Every time you push block, they're right back on you because they're structuring their offense really well. And you just feel like I have to mash super, right? I have to do super. If your character has a super that hits on both sides, it's usually better in those scenarios because when you're doing sandwich offense like this, and your characters are both doing things, you are technically vulnerable to supers that happy birthday, right? So hide in this scenario. How to make him block? Oh yeah. Like random stuff like that, right? Oh, is that airtight? Well, right there I got crossed up and I got Pillbringer instead. But if I didn't get crossed up, right, and he just decided to stay on the same side, then I would have got Gyre Vortex, right, which hits on both sides and would hit both characters, right? So in that scenario, if you're wrong, you still have your burst, right? You can actually burst out of that if you're wrong, which is a lot safer than doing DP and getting it baited and then they hit you with an unburstable 12k combo, right? So definitely keep the risk reward in mind, and this should also be a last resort. It should be a last resort. If you're trying as hard as you can to get out of offense with just push blocking and fuzzy jumping, right, and nothing is happening, right, they're still back on you, then you may want to consider using super, right, particularly in sandwich situations, because this is where you're most liable to get hit by their mid-up. You also have burst to try to navigate through these scenarios as well. So if someone's doing cross combo offense on you, oh, go to the corner. Right, say they're doing a string like that. Right, you can't push block. The spike is still there. He's right back on you. Layered offense, right? Like, I still got a block. I push block, tried to fuzzy jump. I didn't go anywhere. Maybe I can spend another bar. But if you have no meter at this point, maybe you just spent your last bar on this push block here, and it didn't work out for you. Your burst is your last resort. So burst is also really good for these scenarios because you can hit both characters. Of course, you have to be looking at the screen. You have to be looking at the characters and make sure that they're both in the middle of an action. You don't want to burst out of block stun like that when one character is available and not doing anything, because then they will block it and you eat a ton of damage because you can't recover any of your red health when you get hit by a cross combo starter like that. So definitely burst when you have the option available, when you have to. If you have no meter available at this point, push block is not working out, then you can also burst. Right, and because they're both doing something here, they both get hit, and it's impossible for them to actually punish my burst. So one of the unique applications of cross combo is that in early versions of this game, if anyone remembers this, there was complete invul on switch. So if you did a move and then swapped, like Narukami doing Zeo card right there was completely invincible in old versions of the game. It's not like that anymore. But it still keeps that property, the complete invul, on movement. Movement is completely invul. And what I mean by this is that if I do this and then I switch, you can't hit Narukami right there. He didn't do a button, he didn't do a move, so he's completely invincible during that. Right, he also gets behind you, which is something to talk about in another video. It's or maybe I should have talked about it in the offense video, but regardless, this scenario right here, like, try as I may to hit Carmine, it's not happening. He just goes through me. So some of the characters that take advantage of this, or one that comes to the top of my head, is Merkaba. So Merkaba's glide is technically movement. It's referred to as movement and not an actual attack, even though it has a hitbox. Very strange. It shouldn't be like that, but it is what it is. Actually, let's do it like this. Oh, my inputs are bad. Right, you act the switch, he gets behind you, but if you try to anti-air that, you will whiff. Nothing is happening. No, what? That was weird. Oh, actually, let's try DP instead. Yeah, see that? DP just whiffed. I don't know why it clashed. That was very weird, but he's completely intangible. You cannot touch him right there. So the reason this little quirk is important is because if you ever do cross combo offense on somebody and they manage to get out and they're about to jump in on you or something like that, or they're covering ground, you can always swap into your other character on the other end of the screen. So, how do I demonstrate this? Right, he's jumping in on me, I swap, and he whiffs, and he's still in a sandwich like that. It is important to recognize when you're able to actually do this, because there's not a whole lot of risk associated with it because it's frame 1. So another one of the funny things that happens with this little scenario here is that if they're jumping in on you, actually, let's do this. Right, say they're doing offense. Okay. This is so ugly, I'm sorry. Okay, let's try it like this. Alright. Macabre, work with me, man. I'm so sorry I'm bad at demonstrating things. Alright, so I am mashing switch right there. That was completely invul. If there's ever a gap ever, you will always swap into your other character. And I've never seen a scenario where someone's gotten punished for this. I'm not gonna say it's completely impossible to punish this, but I've never seen it happen in my 2 years of playing this game. So it's definitely a very strong option for sure. Like if your cross combo scenario doesn't work out, your character's still around, maybe you have to block some offense, just mash swap. Honestly, there's no risk associated with it because you always go into your other character and the character that you switched out of can't be hit. Unless you do a button. If you do a button and then auto swap, then you'll get cooked. But if you're just hitting swap to like switch into your other character, then you'll be fine. So now I kind of want to talk about pressure resets for a little bit. Pressure resets in this game specifically are what makes it a little more difficult than it needs to be, or not than it needs to be, than you would initially believe. Mainly because you can neutral call your assist and then cross combo without spending any assist gauge. That little nuance is what makes it so you can't just sit here and block in a corner. Alright, so Mitsudo is scary. Yes, this is scary. But if the case was she could only do this one time, and then she has to resort to, you know, just stagger or whatever, then you will be fine. Unfortunately, that is not how this character works. That's not how this game works. She does this once, she smiles, and then she does it again. And then she keeps doing it. And then she does it again, and you have to be scared of it the entire time. So one of the things about stagger in this game is that you can stagger and make someone respect you like this, and then neutral call your assist out of block some because they were respecting you and not doing anything. So that little scenario there is why you can't just sit here and block, even if you're confident in your defense, because eventually you'll get cracked open if you sit there for too long. So you can kind of guess which character is taking advantage of this more than others. Mitsudo, obviously being one of the bigger examples, which is why I picked her. But there are like more simple characters like Hyde too, right? You can do that. Actually, let's do this. Let's do this instead. Whoops, not that. Imagine that was a fuzzy. Imagine that was a fuzzy. But you see how like Hyde can just run back in for free because Narukami has you held down. Almost every team in a game can do something like that. And it's very hard, right? You don't know when they're gonna do this, which is why you can't just sit there and block all day. of course, you're not scared. You're a decent BBTAG player, right? You've been playing the game for a while. You have a lot of games under your belt. You're not scared of this anymore, right? Because you're past that point. You know that this is reactable. You're not scared to block Narukami. However, if you just sit there and you're like, I'm not scared of Narukami at all. This character can do nothing to me, right? If he has a partner, that is not true, because he can do something like this, or actually, you see how bad that got because you just sat there and blocked, right? Of course, I will always advocate that it's safer to try to see what your opponent is doing and then react. But in this game, it is not always the best decision, because if you wait too long to see what they're going to do, they're going to hit you with something cursed, and then you're going to be very sad. So I definitely advise you to look out for scenarios like that. Of course, if someone is doing this to you, they're doing it off of the contingency that you're respecting them. If you're not respecting them, you get a fat punish, and I do mean a fat punish, if I can actually get my buttons to work with me. Alright, something like this. Not like that. I'm sorry I'm bad. Imagine I got the hit here. You see how high it came in and got cooked? Like, you can always happy birthday them for trying this on you. So now we know that we can happy birthday people for, you know, trying to reset pressure. Yay, right? But this is also where risk reward comes in, because it does go both ways. If you're wrong and you mash, say she doesn't call hide, because it takes a little bit longer because they have to make sure you're out of block stun. Like right here, if you that's really get too long. Like if you do that, you still spin the gauge right here. Let's do that. So say you try to mash right here because you think she's gonna do something. That's a bunch of damage. They can frame trap you, or they can neutral call their assist. It's very hard, but sometimes that decision, honestly, not sometimes, that decision has to be made a lot more than sometimes. Like, it is very bad for you to be defending in this game ever, honestly. More so, particularly if you sit there and you keep blocking without doing anything, or trying to get out of pressure some way, somehow. If you're blocking one character, it's not so bad, but if they have their assist behind them, you always have to be scared. There's something they can do to open you up. So let's talk about some common scenarios where you would see something like this. As a rule of thumb, it is typically done in scenario, they do it in like pseudo advantageous scenarios. So what's a good way for this? So if you block their projectile assist, or not projectile assist, if you block their projectile, say like they have a really slow delay projectile like this, they'll probably do that, right? Because you're plus right there. If you're Narukami, you're plus. So, you know, a fighting game player sees that, you know, the opponent is plus and he decides to not hit buttons, right? Okay, it's not my turn, I yield, right? But Narukami takes advantage of that situation and he says, I'm gonna go for an even more messed up scenario. Because normally I would just do this. No, wait. Normally I would just call this the persona Zio, and they run in and do stagger, like more pressure. But if I know you're gonna respect this, I'm gonna wait until you're out of block stun, call my assist, and then start my cross combo offense, or start my active switch mix up, whatever it is I want to do, pretty much, because it is my scenario now. So you have to look out for things like that. Commonly you will see it in situations like that where they're technically plus, but they don't take advantage of their plus frames, and instead they opt to neutral call their assist. Keeping everything that I talked about thus far in mind, just a simple rundown on blocking in this game, just straight up blocking, not concerning with any other facets of defense like throw teching or anything like that. How do you actually just block your way out of situations? Like I said at the beginning of the video, threat assessment, you want to assess how much threat you're under. So high, not that scary, as I've stated previously, right? You don't have to worry about 5C, you don't have to worry about throw so much, you can look for those options. So if you're comfortable sitting there and blocking, you're looking for him to reset pressure. High is not that scary, but he can be scary if you let him call his assist like this, right? And then he sets up more offense and puts you in a potentially bad spot. So you want to stop him before he actually gets carried away and you know, potentially hit you. So what you're actually looking for a lot of characters, every character in this game is going to have reset pressure at some point or another. They're going to run out of normals if they're just doing strings like this. If you're just doing gatlings, then you're going to run out of normals eventually. So eventually they're going to have to rebeat, right? You're going to have to rebeat, or jump cancel, air dash at you or something like that. If they air dash at you, you can just anti-air them. You can look for that. You can actually just look for that option. Wait, hide. Alright, you can just look for this option. I think, yeah. There's head and bowl, so it's relatively safe to do. Like if you're looking for the option and they actually do it, then you can just hit your anti-air button. Alright, not too much of a big deal. If they're doing rebeats on you, every rebeat in this game is negative. So you can always take your turn back on a rebeat if you're guessing that they're gonna rebeat here. Some characters you can even react to them rebeating and take your turn back. But yeah, so every character is gonna have to do something to get back in. So you want to be looking for that and stop it appropriately. Fuzzy jumping is usually the safest option, right? Because you can potentially just get out without having to risk hitting a button and getting counter hit yourself. Even better if you fuzzy jump in, call your assist. Some anti-air assists are better than others, some 4Ps. So we'll keep this recording. Like stuff like that, you pretty much want to always try to take the safest route if at all possible, but sometimes you do have to hit buttons. It's a lot easier to hit buttons when you know that it's your turn, right? So every rebeat, if you see a rebeat, it is your turn. It is your turn. Or sometimes you're not looking for that option, so they mix it in and then you react a little late. Because the scenario is so fast, you react after they do it, and then you hit a button and they end up hitting you, even though they're negative. So you usually want to take contextual clues as to when they're probably going to do it, because they do have to be out of range for the 2A, right? So if they're right in front of you like this, they're going to have to wait till they get pushed out. And if they use 2A already, they can't 2A again, right? So you have to consider the ranges and consider the spaces, but you want to be looking for your chance to take your turn back. You can also make opportunities to take your turn back with good push block timing. So if you examine some of the strings or common strings that characters can run in this game, you can look for strings that are punchable and push block. So hide 5B, 5BB is actually unsafe. Right? If you push block and then you do that, that is a punish because you whiffed. So you can also look to make a character whiff during their string and take your turn back like that, potentially get a punish. Another example is Yang. So Yang doesn't have any Gatling options out of her 2C, right? So if she does 2C, she's gonna have to special cancel. And if she decides to shoulder tackle, right, to cover your push block, then you can actually delay push block and make her whiff like that. See how if I push block immediately, she's back on me immediately? If I delay and wait for her to actually start rushing at me, then it becomes a punish. So definitely experiment with that option, because there's a lot of ways that you can actually take advantage of autopilot block strings like that. So now I want to talk about throws and throw teching. So something that happens a lot in this game, even I fall victim to this, happens to a lot of people, is that they get their throw baited, right? So I've said time and time again that system offense in this game is very reactable, right? It's not so scary at the end of the day. Throw is no exception, right? You can honestly reliably react to throw, but everyone is human, right? So they will get hit by throw sometimes. Sometimes you'll get hit by a throw, it's fine. Even if you have like a 90% tech rate on throws, that's good enough to survive in this game. Because normally, people with stronger defense across like all anime games make it hard to be even thrown in the first place, like to make contact with a throw, because they'll be fuzzy jumping, or they'll mash because they have a read, or their reversal or something like that, right? But normally 9%, you know, can get you by just fine. But one thing you don't want to do is guess. You don't want to guess tech. That is like I said, I fall victim to this. But you don't want to guess, you want to react to the green exclamation point. So this is something that you have to go into training mode and practice. And for people that don't know this, I really advise that you don't try to practice this on a television, something like that. If you have a monitor, like a pretty good gaming monitor or something like that, then use that, because there's an innate delay on your television. For people who don't know this, I'm assuming a lot of people know this already, but there might be new fighter game players who are watching these videos and actually did not know this at all. So yes, there's delay on net play, which you might have known, but there's also delay on your television. So if you're trying to practice reactions or something like that on your television, the results will more often than not be mixed. So I really do recommend you invest in a monitor of some sort at some point in the future, but that's just a small aside. So yeah, this is something that you have to practice in training mode. Get comfortable teching throws. If you're comfortable teching throws, then defense in this game, especially fighting characters solo, like when they don't have their partner behind them, it becomes a lot easier to do and a lot easier to manage, because one of the most common things that they'll try to go for, throw, is not really a factor anymore. A scenario where you see this a lot and that gets a lot of people killed is the stare down, right? People know about the stare down, where you're just looking at the other guy, right? They run up and do nothing. You're just sitting there staring at each other. This scenario is actually not that scary. You have to trust your reactions. You really do. But a lot of people will see this, like they'll run up and stop, and they'll be like, "Oh no, I have to DP. Oh no, I have to DP. Or no, actually, oh no, I have to push block." Right? But because they're not in block stun and they didn't react or confirm the fact that they're not in block stun, they just whip DP and die. Because push block and DP are tied to the same button assignment. They did this on purpose. So one of the ways that you can bait push block is by making them think that they're in block stun, and then not doing anything, and then they whip DP, or you block their DP. So that's something that happens a lot. But some people will, they'll actually have some self-restraint and not DP like this, but then they just get thrown instead. So really the only thing you have to be looking for when someone runs up on you like this is throw. That is really the only thing you have to be looking for. Narukami runs up and he stops. Why is this scary? This is not scary at all. What is he gonna do? This is assuming that he's by himself anyway. Like, let's just look at Narukami, right? This scenario is not scary. What is he gonna do? He's gonna overhead you. You can block that. You react to that, right? Not even looking for it, you can react to it. You want to be looking for throw. Throw can hit you if you're not looking for it. People with better defense or better reactions can tech throw even when they're not looking for it. But for most folks, they have to be looking out for the green exclamation point. So he stands right here. He's either going to overhead you to open you up, throw you, press a button, take his turn back, which honestly isn't so bad, particularly if you're mid-screen because you can just push block. He doesn't have an assist in this scenario, right? So his offense is not going to last for so long. Let's ignore the fact that he has this normal here, right? So Narukami is either going to throw you, he's either going to overhead you, or he's going to try to bait your throw. He'll run up and do something like that, right? Make you run forward and then counter hit you. But if you're not guessing, you can only get your throw baited if you're guessing. If you're reacting and looking for the green exclamation point, then you will never get hit by a throw bait ever. Unfortunately, we're all human, like I said, so it will happen sometimes. Realistically, it would just always happen sometimes. But you want to make sure you have some self-restraint and some discipline in a lot of these scenarios because it keeps you alive longer. So let's say you tech the throw, right? Say you successfully tech a throw as a defender. Something that gets a lot of people killed in this game is actually hitting buttons trying to take their turn back after teching throw. Some games have a mechanic where if you successfully tech a throw, then you're plus, right? Undernight has this, for example. This game does not have that. This game doesn't have that at all. So if you tech someone's throw, right, you tech this throw, you're both neutral. That is a neutral situation. It's that, not really, because not all characters are created equal. Some characters have some really oppressive post-throw tech options. Mitsudo and Carmine coming to mind. So in this neutral, honestly, as a rule of thumb, if they beat you on round start, they beat you on throw tech. So Mitsudo, honestly, against a lot of the cast, just wins on round start, right? You don't have a button that can actually contest her at that range. She can keep you from jumping out, etc. Throw tech is no different. So if you tech this throw and try to hit a button, can I time this right? Oh, whoops. Like right there, I get cooked. I keep trying to tech with AD, I don't know why. Oh, okay, that was odd. Yeah, so this is what normally happens. You just cannot beat her 5A. Carmine beats a lot of characters like that as well. So you have to know what characters you can actually attack on throw tech and what characters you have to back off of. Sometimes you can even just walk back and whiff punish them. Mitsudo is not one of those characters, by the way. Carmine can possibly, I believe he's one of those characters. Here's Mitsudo.
Get ready.
At least I think, I might be wrong. Yeah, you can walk back and then whip punish him instead. Right, so that's kind of like a scenario that you want to be looking out for. If you tech a throw, you always want to, as a defender, I advocate just sitting back and seeing what the opponent is going to do, because normally if someone gets their throw teched, some people have tunnel vision when they're running offense. They're like, yo, I have to end this match right now. It's still my turn. It's always my turn. You're in the corner, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do whatever. So they get their throw tech and they're like, I'm going to take my turn back. I don't care that we're neutral. I'm going to jump at you, or I'm going to run in and hit a button. right? If you're in a corner, you can't whiff punish them, obviously, because you're in a corner, but sometimes they'll jump at you and you can just look out for that and anti-air them, or things like that. Even mid-screen, some people will try to do this, right? So always be looking for aggression after taking somebody's throw. That's just some advice from me. And lastly, I want you to talk about bursting in this game. I want to briefly go over it. So stronger players in this game will always go out of their way to keep their routes burst safe, and it's very important for you to be able to recognize when something is unable to be bursted. So a small example, I do play this team, one of the teams I play anyway. So say, oh, she's blocking. Say I get a hit. One of the most common ways to do this is, or one of the ways to set it up is after getting a hit with an assist, right? You cross combo. Like, that was pretty burst safe. I got guaranteed damage. There was no interaction with your burst at all, right? You shut down the interaction by keeping all of your routes burst safe like that. So you can also do something like this, or you get a hit. This is jump cancelable. So I do that. Oh. That's jump cancelable. I'm blocking the entire time. Then I do this. You can't burst that at all. Go right into super. Of course, depending on the team, this looks a little bit different, but the goal remains the same at the end of the day. You want to make sure the opponent cannot burst on you for free, right? You'll be seeing that a lot at high level. So if you're seeing routes like this, where do you actually burst, right? Sometimes the answer is you literally cannot, but sometimes the answer could also be I'm gonna burst anyway because I want to preserve X's character over this character or something like that. Sometimes the sacrifice has to be made for your anchor, right? Say I want to play Hyde anchor instead of Narukami, right? Then I burst and Narukami comes in and then he eats it because it was burst safe and the opponent kills him, but now I have anchor Hyde. You can also guarantee burst points by looking at what the characters are actually doing. So in scenarios like this one here, so say Hyde opts to just do a whole combo by himself, right? That's safe because if you decide to burst, you can react, right? The opponent can react and do active switch, in which case you hit Hyde but not Narukami, who is being switched into, right? In this scenario here, say you burst at this hit, like you come in and you hit Hyde instead of Narukami, who just got swapped into you, and then Narukami can rush in and punish you. Right, that's a very simple way to make a burst safe combo in this game, but you can also react to them switching. You can react to them switching in this scenario. So say he does right, the screen on the side of the opponent says change when that happens. You can react to that, or you could just look at the other character that's not attacking you and see them do the startup of their active switch, right, and then burst in like that, and it is a safe burst point. Because there's some pretty substantial recovery on active switch, actually. Like right there, it took a while before Narukami could crouch and actually block. So definitely be looking out for that. Once you get to play this game, a lot more, you'll get more comfortable with seeing scenarios like this and seeing where you can and can't burst. You'll get more adept with it. But that's like an easy way to start off. Okay, and lastly, I want to talk about Oki in this video. This is the last topic. So essentially, Oki is where everything that I talked about comes together. You can kind of see a bit of all of the general defensive techniques come together. So say somebody knocks you down. We'll start with Hyde here. Hyde knocks you down. Right, he neutral calls his assist and meteors you, because you can always neutral call during somebody's tech, and that's why you can set up scenarios like this, right, where you're still getting a meaty, but you can also neutral call your assist. So imagine, actually no, let's do Narukami instead. Mitsu 5P isn't so great, and he does an empty jump low mix up like that. Right, that is his mix-up. That is the mix-up that he goes for on Oki. That is not that scary. Like, you can reliably block delay air dash, empty jump low mix-up. It's not as scary as instant overhead jump B per se. And even if he does hit you with it, or no, in a scenario that you block it, he doesn't do it again. He doesn't get to do it again, right? It's not that scary, all things considered. You can bank or you actually just block in this mix-up here. Right, what you have to be scared of after that is if they see that you block it and decide to cross combo. So in this scenario here, the threat goes up a little bit after that because he's positioning himself to set up cross combo offense, which is more liable to actually open you up. So you get knocked down, he does this. Imagine that was low, right? He does cross combo and he does all of this. Where do you push block here? Where you push block is actually really important. Honestly, the best scenario is to push block the 2A. That's the best scenario. Because a lot of people are not going to be confirming that situation that quickly and do cross combo immediately. Right? They want to see if they hit you before they activate cross combo. They do their offense like this, the empty jump low. They see that you blocked it, they do a couple normals to actually confirm that, and then they cross combo. But if you push block immediately, then jump out and jump away as far as you can. Honestly, you don't want to jump in the middle of the sandwich, but you can kind of like wiggle out like that. So if you bank on them not actually confirming so quickly, you can push block and then jump, because push block lowers the amount of recovery that you'd be in normally. Another way to do this is, if you don't want to be so guessy right there, you can also like hold back and then see them activate cross combo and be like, okay, this is a bad situation, I have to burst. So both of these characters are really close to each other in this scenario. They're really close to each other. It doesn't look like Hyde isn't he's blocking, right? It doesn't look like he's blocking, so you can actually burst right here and hit both characters. If you have a good burst like Gord or 9 that's like a really high or a wide hitbox, then all the better. You can safely try to burst your way out of the situation and try to regain control of the game. But yeah, Oki is where you want to employ a lot of these techniques, like push blocking and fuzzy jumping and things like that. Try to test their Oki, right, as safely as you can. You don't want to just, you know, bust out immediately and be like, yo, I'm gonna DP you, right? I'm not expecting any of this. Sometimes you have to DP though. Sometimes you have to DP because Mitsuru, for example, Mitsuru makes you guess immediately, no matter what. You have to guess. You don't know which way she's actually going to, you know, try to open you up. So you have to guess. You don't respect her. You don't sit there and respect her. You can't block this character, right? There are other characters that have like oppressive offense like that as well. Izuyoi, right? Izuyoi has some pretty tricky stuff. Her instant overhead is actually not that bad in this game. It was a lot harder to block in CF, but you can still like get cooked if you're just sitting there and blocking for too long or respecting this character. You have to throw in some RPS every once in a while, which is rock paper scissors for those who do not know, who haven't heard that term before. So it is essentially, you have to keep the option on the table. Like, even if you DP one time, right, and it works, they have to be aware of that option now. Like, they're gonna have to knock you down and then do this instead, in which case you can try to push block and jump out or something like that. Or even if you don't push block and try to jump, you separate the point and assist by push blocking, right, in which case they have to run in to do more offense. So Hyde gets push blocked. I'm pretty much out of block stun, right, but that's all because she's aware of DP now. So of course you don't want to throw it out every single time, because you will be obvious at one point and then you will die because they'll just bait it out. But definitely consider how risky it is to actually sit there and block versus how risky it actually is to try to reversal one time, right? Am I gonna die for getting my reversal baited right now, right? How much health do I have? If I have no health and my character's about to die anyway, I'm about to die in one guess. She knocked me down. If she does this, it's over, right? If she does this and I guess wrong, it's over, right? I'm gonna DP. Because in this scenario, the risk reward is, if you're right, you get to swap your character out, because Hyde has no health at this point, right? And you can try to heal him up in the back. Or if you're wrong, you just die anyway, right? Because you're gonna die if you guessed wrong on that offense anyway. So definitely take risk versus reward into consideration, and also take into account how threatening the situation actually is. Those are pretty much the big points for defending in this game. If you can get as comfortable with this formula as possible, you can survive a lot longer. It is very hard to do though. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of patience, for sure. It takes a lot of patience, but the best players of this game are the people who can effectively, it sounds really bad, but the people who can effectively RPS. If you can effectively put options out onto the table like this and keep your opponent guessing and keep them from going for like the very hard mix-ups all the time, hard to block mix-ups all the time, then you can survive a lot longer. The sandwich is not always the only thing that you have to look out for. Character options and assists make it so every character is threatening in some way, shape, or form with your team. Alright, and that is it. Again, I'm so sorry this took so long to get out. My time management skills are pretty poor, but this is the last video out of the 3 that I wanted to make. So if you get as competent as possible in the offense, neutral, and defense of this game, you should be pretty set in playing it. My aim was to help out beginner to intermediate level players. If you're past this point, maybe you got something from this as well, I'm not really sure. But yeah, I'll probably make some more BBTAG videos in the future. When, I cannot say, because apparently I can't just set a schedule and follow it. But yeah, if I do, they'll be on a case-by-case basis. So if I one day decide this is something that I want to talk about, or if enough people message me about a particular topic, then I could probably put something together as well. But yeah, hopefully these videos are helpful, and hopefully you got something out of it. Peace.